Hi guys, happy Tuesday. I hope y'all are doing good. Hopefully, knock on wood, fingers crossed, all that good stuff. Our technology issues from earlier are fixed and done and a thing of the past. Today though, you guys are gonna have an asynchronous session where you're gonna watch this lecture video, which is pretty short. You're gonna complete a warm-up number 28. And this warm-up is going to be how I take your attendance. So if you want to be marked present for the day, make sure you get this warm-up done before it closes at 5 p.m. We're going to have a short lesson, and then you guys are going to have a labeling assignment on the male reproductive anatomy. So I will be away from my computer, my email, Canvas, all that stuff tomorrow. If you guys need me for any reason, please reach out to me through Remind, because otherwise I will not be checking anything else until Wednesday. So if you need me, contact me on Remind. So getting into today's little lecture on male reproductive anatomy as it relates to animal science, we're going to be talking about the males because we talked about females earlier. So it's only right that we talk about the male reproductive system. So sexual reproduction, as you guys probably know, is the union between egg and sperm, the female and the male. Egg and sperm, the female gamete, the male gamete. Together, they produce a new animal. That's pretty pointless stuff. So we get an egg plus a sperm. We get a tiny little cell of life, which will eventually turn into an animal like this cute little cow here, this little calf, not so little calf. So just like how we started with female reproductive anatomy, starting from the start point, because that's just kind of what makes the most sense, I feel like, we're going to work our way all the way through the male reproductive system and out. So that means we are going to start out with the scrotum and the testicles. The scrotum's job is to house the testicles, to hold them. But what people don't actually realize, people think that it's there for protection. It doesn't really do a whole lot of protecting. Its job is to hold. Its real job is to actually regulate the temperature. It's kind of like a little thermostat. Its job is to make sure that the testicles and the epididymis that are inside of the scrotum stay at a good temperature. The scrotum actually keeps the testicles a few degrees cooler than the rest of the body, because sperm is just another example of something made of proteins. And what happens, just like you learn in biology, what happens when proteins get really, really hot? They start to denature, they start to fall apart. So the scrotum has to keep the testicles a few degrees cooler than the rest of the body to make sure that this doesn't happen, that the sperm doesn't start to denature. Because what can end up happening is you can start having defects on the sperm. Sperm can have two heads, two tails, like it isn't able to swim very well. That's another way that it can denature. So having an elevated temperature in the scrotum and testicle area can end up causing some fertility problems in male animals. Having a well-functioning scrotum and testicles is the key to ensuring everything happens the way that it needs to. So hopefully you learned something new about that. You probably didn't know that that was the scrotum's real job, that it's not actually protection, because boys, let's be honest, scrotum doesn't do a whole lot of protecting from what I understand. Inside of the scrotum is the testicles. So this little kind of kidney bean shaped thing right here in the middle, that's the testicle. Male animals have two testicles. They live in the scrotum, and their job is to produce testosterone and sperm. Testosterone is the male sex hormone, that is responsible for giving male animals those male characteristics. So males are typically taller than females. They're typically stronger than females. They're typically larger than females. Like all of those characteristics, those secondary characteristics, are primarily due to the fact that men and male animals have testosterone flowing through their body. That is what testosterone does. Like I said, the testicles also produce sperm, which is the male gamete, the male key to life. That works very well with the female key to life, the egg. What else? So I already brought this up, the fact that the scrotum is actually like a nice little temperature regulator. It keeps the testicles a bit cooler, actually 4 to 5 degrees cooler than the body. So it's more than you probably expected it to. That's probably a larger temperature difference between core body temp and testicle body temp than you were expecting to see. So now that we know about the scrotum and the testicles, we're able to start the journey that sperm takes through the male reproductive system. So sperm is produced in the testicles. We just went over that. Well, what happens after it leaves the testicles? How does it leave the testicles? Well, what happens is when the animal is sexually mature, when their body is producing sperm and they have gone through maturity, then they have this little tiny piece kind of attached to their testicle. And it is called the epididymis, this tiny little pink piece that's on the outside. That is just about what the epididymis looks like. Epididymis are just tubes that live right along the edge of the testicle. And its job is to store the sperm before ejaculation, or to just keep the sperm there while the animal is going through sexual maturity. So once that animal has reached sexual maturity, well, the epididymis is like, all right, go forth, do your thing. Go forth and do your thing. Make lots of puppies. Have lots of kittens. Do your thing. After the epididymis sets the sperm free, well, then it's working on making its way through this long red tube. This long red tube is called the vas deferens or the deferens duct. I call it the vas deferens just because that's what I was taught it was called. You can call it the deferens duct if you would like, but all it really is just a tube to connect one end, the testicles, to the other end, the outside. That's really all it does. It just transports the sperm from spot A to spot B. As it's making its way through, it will eventually pass through the penis and the sheath. So the sheath is actually the fold of skin that surrounds the penis that acts as a protective covering for it. The penis is very, very sensitive. It can be hurt very easily. So to protect it, animals have a sheath. Just like in old times when people had to carry around swords to defend themselves, what did they keep their swords in? They didn't just let their sword dangle off their hip unless it was a movie. If they were real about it, then they held their sword in a sheath because the sheath's job is to protect what's inside from the outside. So sheath should be something pretty easy for you to remember. Pretty much it for that. So male reproductive anatomy seems pretty easy, right? Way less complicated, way less stops than the female reproductive system. Girls are just complicated. I don't know what to say. But male animals do have 3 accessory sex glands, 3 pieces of their reproductive system that we haven't covered yet that do small but important things. An accessory is something like earrings or a fashionable belt. It is something that you put on to kind of pull things together to make things work and to make things look as best as possible. So an accessory sex gland is a sex gland that helps to pull everything together and make things a little bit easier. So the first one that we have is the seminal vesicles. Seminal sounds kind of like semen, right? Well, seminal vesicles produce a fluid that we call seminal fluid. And as the sperm is making its way through the reproductive tract, through the male reproductive tract, seminal vesicles are putting in a little bit of seminal fluid to protect the sperm, because the sperm's got a long journey. It's got to make it through its own reproductive system and then most of the female reproductive system. So they need some protection. It's hard out there, y'all. It's hard. So to make sure that the sperm is protected and to actually give it a fighting chance, male animals have seminal vesicles to just kind of add a protective layer to it. Kind of like a shield, or like if you're playing a video game and you have a shield which protects you from getting hurt up until a certain point. That's kind of what the seminal vesicles do. It protects them as much as they can until there's just no seminal fluid left. And then it's like, sorry, sperm, you're on your own. We've also got the Cowper's gland, which their job is actually for after the animal urinates and before they ejaculate. Because with male animals, the urine and the sperm are coming out of the same area. So we got to sanitize. We have to clean things up. You don't need those two things mixing. So the Cowper's gland produces a fluid that makes its way through the male reproductive system before the sperm. It's kind of like a deep cleaner. Or if you've ever seen, like, I wish I remembered what movie it was, but I can see it in my head where someone is like, it's like someone rich and famous and like well-to-do off is walking through, and you've got people in front of them with like push brooms that are like sweeping the way in front of this person right before they can get there. That's kind of what the Cowper's fluid does, is that its job is to clean and neutralize the urethra from the urine that had just been through here. And then the last accessory sex gland that we have is the prostate gland, which produces prostate fluid. So the prostate gland, the prostate fluid mixes in with the sperm as it's making its way through the reproductive tract. You can actually see the prostate gland right here. So as that sperm is making its way through, when it comes through here, the prostate gland is like, hold on, I got something for you. I got like a little care package, take it with you. And what it is that the prostate fluid has a bunch of nutrients in it to make the sperm healthy and viable, to again, help it to be able to make that journey through its own reproductive system and then through the female reproductive system. So following the sperm, or not following the sperm, but before the sperm makes its way out, before the animal ejaculates, the Cowper's fluid comes through, neutralizes everything, literally clean slate. It's a clean slate. Well, as the animal is preparing to ejaculate, preparing to release the sperm, as the sperm makes its way through the reproductive system, it's mixing in with seminal fluid from the seminal vesicles and prostate fluid from the prostate gland. And by putting all three of those things together, the sperm, the actual like male sex gamete, the prostate fluid full of nutrients, and the seminal fluid to add a layer of protection, All three of those things mixed together creates semen. So semen and sperm are two different things, y'all. Two different things. Sperm is what comes out of the testicles. Semen is what is ejaculated. It is a mixture of different fluids. It's like this, it's like a little recipe. It's like, oh, you want that dog to be pregnant? I got the stuff. Mix in some seminal fluid, mix in some prostate fluid, mix in that sperm, and you got a recipe for success. The dog or the cat or the bird, whatever it is, they're like, all right, you should be good to go. If your sperm is all good, then you should be good to go, because this is the recipe for success. This is the recipe for semen. So what you guys are going to do, very similar to what you did yesterday with the female reproductive labeling, you're going to take the male reproductive labeling worksheet that's posted on Canvas for you, and you are going to label these 5 pieces. You're going to label the vas deferens. You're going to label the penis and the sheath. You're going to label the epididymis. And you're going to label the scrotum and testicles, which should be pretty easy considering we just walked through on this recorded lecture everything that you need to know. So if you guys have any questions, please reach out to me on Remind. Make sure you get warm-up number 28 done. It is for your attendance tomorrow. But that's about it. That is male reproductive anatomy. I'll be checking my email and everything Wednesday morning, first thing. If y'all need anything before then, like I said, get me on Remind. Otherwise, I will see you guys on Thursday. Have a great day, y'all.